So from your guys' perspective and expertise, what type of areas would be ideal? Maybe the type of soil would be ideal for hemp grain production. Any of you guys that have a great answer and want to jump in?
I think as long as it's well drained, that's the first criteria. Soil health is an emerging topic with all crops. So you could almost present that is good for corn and soy, would be good for hemp, except for the seed size. So you have to consider that for emergence, especially. It's a very weak seed compared to soy and corn. It's much more like cotton. Until you get it up and going, it's very vulnerable to conditions and compaction and that type of thing. So some of you no-till gurus here, love to see you give it a whirl. Mostly in Europe, it's 100% conventional. 100% is a big number, but it's a lot of conventional production in Europe. But I think as we get more farmers that are really good at no-till and establishing small seeded crops, we should still consider that as something that is a goal that we need to kind of aspire to achieve. But I think loamy sand in my neighborhood, I'm sure there's some of that here. It looks kind of dark when I rode around today. But loamy sand is very good for hemp, has been my experience.
Okay.
And I would say from the soil quality perspective, growing grain is a little different than growing for grain is a little different than growing for fiber, because as Rachel had alluded to, if you're planting for just fiber and you're really not harvesting those grain heads, that's primarily an industrial use in concrete, wood, those types of products, which we're not as concerned about the human consumption element there. Whereas with grain, 9 times out of 10, that's being used as a consumable, whether it's on the animal or the human consumption side. So your soil quality, meaning what was planted on there before, obviously can't really use pesticides, herbicides, things like that will ultimately end up in a human consumable product. So I think that's very important as well.
All right, anything you want to add?
I would second that sandy loam is preferable for hemp, but as long as it's well drained, I agree with that. I've seen hemp growing out of straight sand, so like hemp is an interesting crop. Not all varieties. This is feral varieties that I saw in Bureau County that was just growing out of sand. So depending on your genetics, it can be a little more forgiving than others. That's why it's important to work with seed distributors who have seen their varieties grown in different regions and have some data to back that up. I've been growing for the university. It's called the Midwest Hemp Co-op, right? Or
Midwest Hemp Database Project, or the Czech program, as he calls it.
I feel like it's very close to that, but it's the word cooperative is definitely in the name. So even though I've been growing hemp for 4 years, this year, being able to grow varieties that the university have already been able to practice with in other regions, they helped me determine what they thought would be best for me in my region. I found a variety I love, like within 6 weeks, I knew that I loved this variety over the other varieties that I've tried. So it's really valuable to have that research done and have, ask those questions. Soil health, absolutely super important, especially if you're growing for food or medicine cannabinoids. The fiber, again, it can help you remediate soil that is, maybe less than, maybe you want to grow food there, maybe it's contaminated with heavy metals or any number of things. It's pretty amazing all of the remediation properties that hemp can help with, even if it's just helping with erosion or excess nitrogen or other fertilizers, pesticides, stuff like that, helping clean up your soil. There was something else. One thing that is noteworthy about growing grain and other crops in rotation is wheat is not a good one to be in rotation with, because you cannot say that it's allergen free at that point. You can no longer, because there's the potential for cross contamination with the gluten. So usually if you buy these items, they say gluten free on them, at the grocery store. So that's one crop you would not want to rotate with grain.